Welcome to OnlyTax, where we give you the naked truth about how the tax system works. We're back with a fresh episode of OnlyTax. And today you might be wondering, we're missing one person. We're missing another beautiful person right now. And right now, Alyssa is in recovery. Any prayers ascended to her will be much appreciated. And she's also very much busy. A lot of work for her right now with 1099 and everything. It's a lot. So let's pray for her for sure. And today, we're trying something a little different. In this segment, our accountant, Jason Malabutte, will be reacting to two clips featuring Ronald Reagan. Okay, so the first clip covers Reagan's tax cuts and how they impacted the economy in the 1980s. And the second clip shows Reagan warning about future corporate tax hikes and how those costs could eventually land on consumers. And then while we're doing that, I'll be asking like questions along the way. And Jason, of course, our expert here, will break down what makes sense, what needs context, and what lessons still apply today. All right. So right now, let's jump into the first clip.
Yeah, so Alisa, I hope you feel better. We'll see you in next week's episode. Our audience misses you. Okay, so let's go to our first video of today.
Common sense told us that when you put a big tax on something, the people will produce less of it. So we cut the people's tax rates.
Yes, that is true. I was once reading that mid 1900s, I can't remember if it's 1950s, 1960s, or something like that, but the American tax rate was the highest during that time. And what we saw was that not only were the ultra rich finding ways not to report their income, but also people were incentivized not to work as much because they realized that the more that they work, the higher the taxes are. In fact, Ronald Reagan was a movie actor before he was president of America, and he was famously quoted by saying that he would only produce 2 movies a year because it did not make sense for him to make a third movie during those high tax years because all that money was going to go to taxes anyway. So that's very interesting. Let's continue with the video.
And the people produced more than ever before. The economy bloomed like a plant that had been.
That's very true. So I remember when, please correct me if I'm wrong, team, but I think it was John F. Kennedy. When John F. Kennedy became president, one of the things that he did was he lowered the tax rates. And then what we saw was that the super rich, the ultra rich, was actually volunteering to report more of their income. And also, we were seeing more jobs were being created because there was more production, because companies saw that they could produce more money and lower tax rates so that they could keep more of their income. So that's what we were seeing. Okay.
That had been cut back and could now grow quicker and stronger.
Yes, so what's your thoughts on that, right? Like, we're seeing nowadays, some places like New York, California, where people are saying that they want the rich to get taxed more. But what people don't know is that when the rich get taxed more, the average citizen suffers. Because what the rich will do is they will pass on the cost to us, average folks, which will make the goods more expensive. And also at the same time, they will cut jobs, which will increase unemployment. What's your thoughts on that, Rain?
Okay, so does that mean like that's how inflation happens?
That is one factor of
Mhm.
inflation. Also, another factor, well, there's many forms of factors when it comes to inflation, Rain. During the last 5 years, we've also been printing a lot of money. So that is a story for another day, and we don't have time for that story right now. But yes, that's definitely one of the factors, part of the reason why inflation is going up. Because, for example, right here in Los Angeles, they have increased the minimum wage in the last few years. So then that means that people who are working at McDonald's, Burger King, Starbucks, they need to get paid more. And for the business to make a healthy profit, they need to pass those costs down to the consumer. So that's a very good important point, Rain, is that when you increase taxes, that's definitely going to increase the prices for average Americans. Okay? Should we move on to the next video, Rain?
Yeah, sure. For this one, let's see.
So let's watch this one. It's comparing Ronald Reagan's tax policies back in 1975 compared to the proposed tax policies of the last election, which was in 2024. And Rain, before we watch this video, let's remind the public that we are not trying to side with any political agenda, right? We're not trying to say that we are pro-Republican or pro-Democrat, right? As CPAs, that's not our jobs. Our jobs as CPAs is to know the tax laws, regardless of who is in office, so that we could pass on that knowledge and tax strategies and tax savings to our clients, right, Rain?
Very much true.
Let's watch this video, Rain.
Today, they're taking almost half of every dollar earned in the United States. And most people don't realize it because the taxes are hidden in the so-called business taxes. You know, the politician that stands up and yells, oh, let's save the little man, let's tax business, and everybody yells hooray. But they haven't figured out that every tax on business is just a part of the cost of production.
Rain, were we just talking about this just a few seconds ago at the last video? I feel like I'm not only a CPA, but we're also mind readers here. So you heard it from Ronald Reagan himself,
Yes.
right? When you increase the taxes, like Rain says, that's going to contribute to inflation because the business has to pass that cost to us consumers so that they can make a profit.
And the customer winds up paying it when he buys the product. It's a hidden sales tax.
I don't have to say anymore, Rain.
There's 116 of them in the suit of clothes that each one of us is wearing.
We're going to have to raise corporate taxes. And
Okay, so a very interesting fact, Rain, but back when America was first founded, we actually did not have any taxes. I bet you didn't know that, Rain, but when America was first founded, we didn't have any taxes. In fact, that is why we as Americans separated or fought for our freedom from the British, is because we felt like we were being overtaxed. Then fast forward to 1860 during the Civil War. That is when we first got taxed. But I believe that the tax back then was only 3%. Fast forward to about the 1900s. I can't remember if it was 1940 to 1950s, but the tax rate was as high as 90%. And correct me if I'm wrong again, but those high tax rates did not come down until John F. Kennedy became president. And I believe he cut it down to about 70%. My numbers could be wrong, but that's what I remember just studying tax history. So let's keep on watching here.
we're going to have to make sure that the biggest corporations and billionaires pay their fair share. That's just it.
That sounds good to the public, but what people don't think about, Rin, is that if you tax the billionaires, what's going to happen if they move their factories and their jobs to a place that's more business friendly? Then what's going to happen to us average Americans, right? Like, where are we going to work, right? So, Rin, what do you think of that?
I would think of it in this way, like how startup companies are actually starting in different countries, just like how they're starting up in Dubai, in Macau, instead of starting in our country. Because for them, it's easier that way, less taxes that way as well. I think of it that way. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's a very good point, Rin, because speaking of Dubai, I heard that there's no taxes in Dubai, so then therefore it's more business friendly in Dubai. And that is why, thank God that during last year, we had a big tax cuts here in America. We had a one big beautiful bill, which had a lot of tax advantages, tax benefits, and tax cuts for business owners, which then brings more jobs here to America. So if you want to learn more about the One Big Beautiful Bill and how you could benefit from it, my team is going to put a link here where you could press the button and you could watch our webinar that we made last year about the One Big Beautiful Bill if you want to learn more. So let's finish this video, Rain. We're almost done.
It's about paying their fair share. I am not mad at anyone for achieving success, but everyone should pay their fair share, and it is not right.
Yeah, so unfortunately, when you increase the tax rates for the rich, you are basically punishing them for being successful, and you're going to discourage them to doing business in your country, in their state, in their city. So with that said, that is how taxes affects us from the top all the way to the bottom. All right. So thank you again, Dwayne.
So there you have it, guys. Our expert accountant, Jason, breaking down two historical clips from Ronald Reagan. The big takeaway: tax policy isn't just political, it's practical. Whether we're talking about tax cuts or corporate taxes, understanding how these rules really work matters. All right. And again, if you want your tax questions answered in a future episode of Only Tax, submit them in our private Facebook group, REI Tax Hack. Your question could be featured next. You might never know. And if there's a tax video, a TikTok clip, any clip that you want us to react to, send it our way. We'll look at them. We'll review it for you. And thanks again for tuning in. This is Only Tax, where we give you the naked truth about how the tax system really works.